The Drunken Porter, scene Act 2, Scene 3. And he's the guy, the night watchman, who's meant to stay up and open the gates and kind of, when people come knocking. And here it is. Here's a knocking indeed. If a man were Porter Hellgate, he would have old turning key. Knock, knock, knock. Who's there? In the name of Beelzebub. Here's a farmer that hanged himself in the expectation of plenty. Come in, time server. Have napkins now, hell to sweat for it. Who's there in the other devil's name? Faith, there's an equivocator. Ah, there we are. Faith. Here's an equivocator that could swear in both scales against either scale, who committed treason enough for God's sake. And there's something ironic about this, because he's actually hit the nail on the head. Macbeth is the equivocator, and what he's done is treasonous. But I also want you to pay attention to the rhythm, all right? If we look at other parts of the thing, we have the witches who's the rhythm of the witches speak is in trochaic feet, all right, trochaic meter. And then with Macbeth, iambic. And then with the Hell Porter, he speaks in prose, all right. He speaks in prose because he is a commoner. He has no noble blood. Okay, so he speaks in prose. Yep, God's sake, yet could not equivocate to heaven. And here is the idea of judgment. All right, the Macbeth's judgment doesn't lie on earth, but it lies in heaven, where he will not be able to equivocate there. Oh, come in, equivocator. Knock, knock, knock. Who's there, Faith? Here's an English tailor come hither, stealing out of a French hose. Come in. And we get this idea of people who have committed wrongs, all right? People who have done wrong. The farmer who hanged himself in the expectation of plenty. All right, the disappointments of the world, suicides, treasonous murders. What are you? This place is too cold. I'll devil porter it no further. I thought to have left in some professions to go to the primrose way, an everlasting bonfire. And that's a reference again to hell. Okay, the conch hell. And on, I pray you. Remember the porter. Enter Macduff and Lennox. Now, Lennox is another thing. Was it so late, friend, ere you went to bed, that you lie so late? Faith, sir. Now, here, after the tension of Act 2, Scene 2, there is a little bit of comic relief, and the porter's there to provide that. All right. Now, in Shakespeare, the commoners are often very witty, okay, and they often get one over on the nobles, and it's a kind of a little way to kind of pay some respects to the groundlings who would have been to see his plays. And the porter here is no different. He sort of has a little bit of banter with Macduff. So although he's a lowly commoner, he is just as smart and witty as anyone else. Faith, sir, we are carousing till the second cock, and drink, sir, is a great provoker of three things. And then Macduff says, what three things did we do? Okay. Marry, sir, nose painting, sleep, and urine. Okay. Lechery, sir. It provokes and unprovokes. It provokes the desire, but it takes away the performance. Therefore, much drink may be said to be an equivocator with lechery. And again, we've got the idea of equivocation coming through, even here in these most basic elements, okay? Equivocation. And it mars him. It sets him on and takes him off. It persuades him and disheartens him, makes him stand to and not stand to. In conclusion, equivocates him in the sleep, and giving him the lie, leaves him. All right, that alcohol, okay, can be something that is a two-edged sword. Okay. Who else do we know abused alcohol before they murdered the king? Lady Macbeth. All right, so we got this idea of alcohol. Okay. Is an equivocator. I believe drink gave thee the lie last night. That it did, sir, in the very throat in me, but I requited him for this lie. And I think being too strong for him, though, he took up my leg sometime. I made a shift to cast him. He's kind of a little bit of banter there. Is thy master stirring? Enter Macbeth. Our knocking has awaked him. Here he comes. Good morrow, noble sir. Good morrow, both. All right. So it's interesting that they talk about equivocation, and directly, who should appear? Macbeth. The king is stirring, worthy Thane? Not yet. He did command me to call timely on him. I have almost slipped the hour. So this is a prearranged time. They're going to meet. All right. And Macduff is there as he has been requested. I'll bring you to him. I know this is a joyful trouble to you, but yet 'tis one. The labor we delight in physics pain. This is the door. I'll make so bold to call, for 'tis my limited service. All right. And here we get this interchange between Macduff and Macbeth. It's very perfunctory. It's very matter-of-factly. It's quite businesslike. Okay. These are two men of similar kind of, how we say, but you notice there isn't really any warmth to it. It's just straightforward. Okay. The king's told me to collect him. I'm here. Show me this is his door. All that. Okay. And then Lennox says, goes the king hence today? He does. He did appoint so. And then this is kind of an important part. The night has been unruly. Where we lay, our chimneys were blown down, as they say. Lamentings were heard in the air, strange screams of death prophesying, accents terrible of dire combustion, confused events. Hatched a woeful time, the obscure bird clamored the livelong night. Some say the earth was feverish and did shake. All right, and so we get a sense of unnatural things happening. Unnatural events. And that reflects the, in a way that nature has been disturbed. We get a little bit of a semantic field here as well. We can write that in. The idea of the semantic field. Okay, screams of death, prophesying, blown down. Okay, feverish and did shake. These are kind of like, there's a sort of ominous sort of, there's an ominous tone to what he's talking about. Yeah, there's something strange there. And Macbeth, it was a rough night. Yeah. In a sense of equivocation too, he's just murdered the king. So yeah, it was a rough night. And they've been awake, because have they been to bed yet? No, he hasn't actually been to sleep. He's been awake all night. My young, remember, it's kind of paro a fellow, or the fellow to it. And then Macduff returns. The exclamations, horror, 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 tongue nor heart cannot conceive nor name thee. And then Macbeth and Lennox, what's the matter? Here we are. Confusion now hath made his masterpiece. All right, I want you to think about this idea of confusion. because in a way, the king brings certainty. The king brings stability. The king brings, in a way, the peace of God. And this is important because confusion is the opposite of order, okay? Again, the natural order of life has been overturned. So we start to see a thematic thing develop here with the death of Duncan, the murder of Duncan. It is unnatural that the taking of a life of the king is deeply unnatural, that even nature itself, all right, balks against that. That nature, the very nature of the earth itself, understands what has happened, and it is something that is deeply unnatural. It overturns the order. And then it says again, emphasized most sacrilegious murder. This is not kind of simply the murder of a king, but it is almost a sacrilegious murder. Sacrilegious means going against the idea of faith. Hath broke up the Lord's anointed temple and stole thence the life of the building. And this is very, very important. Duncan is just not a man or a king. He is the Lord's anointed temple. All right. It's to come against that. And here it's that sort of reference to kind of the destruction of Solomon's temple. Okay. We got that allusion to the desecration which probably won't mean much to you, but after the desecration and fall of Solomon's temple, that is part to do with like the Israelites were kind of cast out into the wilderness. Okay. Then in a way, the thing that kind of holds them together, yeah, the focal point of life has died, has been murdered. What did you say? The life? Mean you his majesty? And we get this sort of sense of disbelief. Macbeth is quite good. He's kind of really kind of stepped up his role here. Approach the chamber and destroy your sight. With a new Gorgon, do not bid me speak. See and speak yourselves. Destroy your sight. The idea of the eyes being destroyed, of what you see destroys not your physical sight, but your ability to see properly. Okay. And the Gorgon, there's a Scottish thing, and you know, the Middle Ages talking about ancient Greece. These were educated men. They were not uneducated simpletons. Okay. They are noblemen and educated. Macbeth and Lennox. And then Macduff begins. Awake, awake, ring the alarm bell, murder and treason, Banquo and Donalbain, welcome's wake, shake off this dying sleep, death's counterfeit, remember, kind of relates back to how Duncan seemed to sleep, all right, death's counterfeit, dying sleep, and look on death itself, up and see the great doom's image, Banquo, Doko, as for your graces, rise up and walk like sprites. The countenance is her. Ring the bell, enter Lady Macbeth. All right. And she, you know, what's the business? That such a hideous trumpet calls to parley. The sleepers of the house, speak, speak. And we get this again. She's acting. And what we call like a play within a play, and there's a name for that, we call it metadrama. She's playing the role of the eager hostess who's complaining on behalf of the people who are there. So we get this little bit of metadrama, okay, where she's acting a role. Oh, gentle lady. And there's something ironic about that phrase. Okay. 'Tis not for you to hear what I can speak. The repetition in a woman's ear would murder it as fell. Enter Banquo. Oh, Banquo, Banquo, our royal master's murdered. Woe, alas! What? In our house? It's sort of something quite incredulous about that. That, you know, it's almost like a throwaway line. What, in our house? In this castle? Sort of pretend disbelief. Well, of course, it's a castle. There are no other houses around. Too cruel anywhere, dear Duff. I prithee, contradict thyself and say it is not so. Malcolm, Macbeth, and Lennox return. Had I but died an hour before this chance, I have lived a blessed time. From this instant, there's nothing serious in mortality. All is but toys, renown and grace is dead. The wine of life is drawn, and the mere lees is left, this vault to brag of. And yeah, and I hear Macbeth can actually put some sort of feeling into these lines because he actually feels this. Do you understand? He is not pretending. We already know he regrets his actions. Okay, entered Malcolm and Dolby and the king's sons. Was amiss? You are, and you do not note the spring, the head, the fountain of your blood. Okay. Now, again, the natural kind of imagery that's used to describe Duncan, the Lord's anointed temple, the spring, the fountain is stopped. The very source of it is stopped, Macduff. And again, he cannot even say there. He uses euphemism, all right? And plain old Macduff, your royal father's murdered, all right? No euphemisms. He's straight to the point. And like he says later on, my sword shall be my voice. He is not here. Oh, by whom? And then we get the lie. Those of his chamber, and I want you to notice, as it seemed, had done it. Their hands and faces were all badged with blood. So were their daggers, which unwiped we found upon their pillows. They stared and were distracted. No man's life has to be trusted with them. All right, as it seemed. Immediately, there's kind of a little bit of doubt there. As it seemed. And then Macbeth says, oh, I yet do repent me of my fear that I did kill them. Okay, and that's convenient, but what he needs to do is kill the only witnesses. And it makes it look good. Now look what Macduff says. Wherefore did you so? Why did you kill them? Why? Now, what's Macduff interested in? They need to be interrogated. They need to know what happened. Macduff immediately knows something is wrong. Wherefore did you kill them? All right. You immediately thought it was them, but let's not jump to conclusions. Wherefore did you do so? They have nothing to gain. And then Macbeth has to quickly think on his feet. Who can be wise? Amazed, temperate, and furious, loyal and neutral in a moment. All right. You can, because again, we've got that idea of equivocation. Okay. Back again to haunt us. The expedition of my violent love. Outrun the pauser, reason. Look at this. Now, this idea of violent love can outrun the pause. And eventually he does so. He lets this idea of reason fall away, because passions are quickly stir people to act when really they need to pause and think. Okay, so I didn't pause to think. I just killed them because I love Duncan so much. Here lay Duncan, his silver skin. Okay, precious silver skin, laced with his golden blood. Okay, the idea of royalty. And with his gash stabs look like a breach in nature, which again, we're coming back to that idea of nature. For ruins, wasteful entrance, the murderers steeped in the colors of their trade, their daggers on malady breached with gore. Who could refrain that a heart had to love, that in his heart courage to make love known? And so in a way, I killed them because I love Duncan. It's not particularly convincing for Macduff. Now, Lady Macbeth knows he's floundering, so she seems to faint. Help me hence, ho! Again, that idea, the actress melodrama. Okay, look to the lady. Macduff doesn't know where to help her because immediately the warning bells are going off. Look to the lady. And then Malcolm said, as an aside, why do we hold our tongues that most may claim this argument for ours? Because there is a sort of belief that they may be the ones who have actually killed the king. What should be spoken here where our fate, hid in an auger hole, may rush and seize us? Let's away. Our tears are not yet brewed. All right. So in a way, it's almost too shocking for them to comprehend. They're in shock. Their father has died. And everyone would expect him to act emotionally, but they're not acting emotionally. They haven't felt it yet. So let's get away, because people will start to kind of believe that we are responsible. Not our strong sorrow upon the foot of motion, nor our strong sorrow on the foot of motion. Look to the lady, and then we have our naked frailties hid that suffer an exposure. Let us meet and question this most bloody piece of work. Okay, it's not cut and dry. They need to think about it.